Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial technician. Whether you've had years of success in your business or just starting out, Highlift Financial can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family, and align these for generational wealth. So as they say, what happens in your life affects your business. And now, on to the show. So hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Life with me, your host, Matt DiFrancesco. And I know I've been away for a few weeks here. And as you will see, if you're watching on YouTube, a few changes here. We've now incorporated some video into the podcast. So if you are interested in seeing me and my guests, you can view us on YouTube. And I'm actually really excited today because I have as my guest the man behind the mic. Okay. Everybody's heard of Aric Johnson, especially if you've been listening to the podcast. And I actually have him as my guest today because, you guys don't know the background story behind Aric. And I really wanted to kind of highlight that because he's really got a unique story and he's worked with a lot of business owners, both as a coach and as a podcast producer. And I think he can bring a lot of value to your lives through this podcast. So, Aric, I'm excited to have you on today. Welcome.
Thanks, man. This is exciting. I'm on the front lines with you today.
I know, exactly. I'm going to let you do all the heavy lifting today after right. Me having to do it. So.
I should have stretched. I think I should have stretched before this.
That's right. There you go. Well, if you need a minute just to kind of get a quick,
loosen up a bit. Yeah.
That's right. Get all loose. We're ready to go here.
Right.
So. But anyway, so like I said, I wanted to have Aric on today because if you've been listening for a while, Aric, he's a man of many talents. He's a podcast producer. He's been a coach for podcasts. He's coached me. He's taught me what I know here in podcasting. He's been a business coach. And I think his multifaceted skills have enabled him to have a unique perspective on the challenges that business owners face. And plus, he's just an awesome human being and is a great friend too. So Aric, like I said, welcome to the show. How's your day been going?
It's fantastic. I'm excited. I get to start my morning with you. A little coffee, a little Matt. Here we go.
There we go. Hey, not a bad way to start, I guess. So, so anyway, let's just jump in. I know your story, yet the audience has never heard of some of your travels from Boys Town to business coach to podcast producer and coach and how they've all kind of intertwined. So I wanted to see if you could just tell the audience a little bit about your story.
Wow. How long is this podcast? We know we have some rules around this, how long a podcast.
Yeah, we try to keep it around 30 minutes. So
yeah. Okay. We'll give the abridged version.
That's okay.
I'll tell you what, it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. I did a lot of speaking when I was younger, worked within the church a lot. My wife and I volunteered in our church and we worked with youth groups. And so that was kind of where I got my feet wet, right, with public speaking. Right. And if anybody knows, junior high and high school students, they're pretty critical. They can, and they tell it like it is. So you learn very quickly what you do well and what you don't do well. So that kind of refined some of the public speaking stuff there. But then my wife and I ended up coming to Nebraska, and that was actually a choice. I don't know if most people move to Nebraska by choice, but we did, for Boys Town specifically, because we loved working with youth. And this is an opportunity for us to work with at-risk youth. The bulk of them were coming out of the court system, to be honest.
Right.
A lot of them didn't have, parents at some point. They lost them or they were taken away. And so they ended up coming to our home, right? And so living within Boys Town, that was a 24-hour day, 7-day a week, 365-day job.
Right.
And through learning at Boys Town and the training, it was intense training, a lot of it. Communication skills. So that kind of upped my game as far as the communication and the speaking, plus a lot of not official, quote unquote, official psychology courses, but learning behavior, right? But our entire job could be broken down into observing and describing behavior.
Right.
So that's what we would do. We would observe and describe the young man's behavior, positive and negative. And then help to shape them in their journey, whatever that journey was. So we were there almost 12 years, raised 70 kids and loved it, right? And it was just amazing. 2 of those out of the 70 were my own biological kids too.
Okay.
But it was an amazing experience. And so we always had training. There was always something to learn and I gobbled it up. I mean, that was something that I really enjoyed. And then the other thing that we enjoyed was parties, lots of them. My wife is an amazing cook. Matt, you and I have talked about that before.
Right.
But my job at the parties, besides helping to get tables set up and things like that, because my wife did all the cooking, but I had a karaoke system that I would always break out and set up for the kids. And so we'd have 50, 100 kids over to the house, and they'd have basketball set up. We'd have karaoke set up, just things that would enhance their experience of everyday life, right? These kids are coming out of really tough places. And so my main goal was to help them create memories that outlasted the bad memories they already had, right? You can't replace memories. You can't just, like, the bad ones are gone, there's nothing but good ones. I mean, that would be great, right? Problem is, it doesn't work that way. So just creating those opportunities for these kids gave us a real sense of what they wanted, what they sought out, what their families were looking for, because we would work with the families as well. There was other parts of Boys Town that would work with their families, because the ultimate goal was reunification, if that was at all possible. So the karaoke stuff was always fun, and I've always been a singer my entire life. And so just working on my vocals and learning how to take care of my vocal cords and speaking and all that, it was just all kind of built into me, right? And I know that I'm not going to take any credit away from God, because it's a God-given gift, and I don't feel like it's a gift, but I think the joy of singing and the desire to better my vocals, I think that's the main part of the gift, right? Is that I pay attention to that, and I want to continue to develop that. So that was kind of my journey on communications and learning how to watch behavior, which really lent itself into coaching. So when we left Boys Town, I worked with a wonderful gentleman who was actually a family teacher at Boys Town also. And that's how we met, became fast friends. And that's Matt Halloran. He started a coaching company right as we were leaving Boys Town. And so he and I started Top Advisor Coaching together. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth on coaching and working with small businesses. And it was amazing. And it fit, right? It was just one of those things that it just fit exactly where it was supposed to, with all the training that I had had over that decade and a half working with the church and working with Boys Town. I was able to go in. It's like a puzzle, right? And I know that you do this all the time. Right. It's like a puzzle going in and working with a small business. Let's look, observe, and describe what's going on. And we see things that they don't, because they're every day in that business, right? They're just working so hard. It's hard to pull your head up and say, oh man, let's see what's going on. It's just grind, grind, grind. So it was fun. I loved going into a business and being able to see all the positive things they're doing and all the things that they could use improvement on, and then working with them on those things.
Yeah, I think there is a real joy in that. And one thing I wanted to touch on, and you mentioned this about these God-given gifts. And I think, too many times we take those things for granted. I know as I've kind of grown and gone through the whole, just throughout my life, the discernment process, where you're trying to figure out, where am I being led? In a way, a lot of times I'm redirected back to my business, and a lot of people don't think of their business as a vocation, but I think in many ways it is. And, I was thinking of a couple clients that I have that actually, they've come to this realization if we've been working with them, and all of a sudden now they say, it's not just about the money, but it's about enriching the lives of my family, of my employees. And they start creating these great cultures within their businesses. And it's really something that's fulfilling to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I believe, and you and I have had this discussion before, Matt, that I believe that any business owner of whatever faith they choose to be, I think it is inherent that they want to be a good steward of everything they're given.
Correct.
Right. So whether that's being a good steward of their talents or good steward of the finances that are being provided by the business for, to develop other people within the business or growth or whatever, to have a larger impact is the bottom line. Not the bottom line is the bottom line, to have a larger impact. And with that larger impact, the bottom line grows. Right. I mean, it's just how it works.
Right. It's funny. We've talked about this many times with renewal time, this idea of renewal time. And it's kind of the same concept, that it's counterintuitive. Most business owners think I got to work harder. I work harder. But when you kind of change the paradigm and you start giving yourself renewal time, you start looking for a deeper purpose, the results come and they actually accelerate, because now it's not just about driving revenue. It's about something bigger than that. And again, that comes down, I think you talked about the psychology that these kids go through in analyzing this. And it's a similar thing that I do in my business, that it's not so much, we talked about putting the pieces of the puzzle together. That's the easy part. The hard part is what's going through their heads that they're not executing the things that they need to be doing. And we've talked a lot about the challenges that business owners face. And now, being as both, working with Boys Town, as a business coach, as a podcast coach, what do you see as the things that really hold business owners back from success?
One of the biggest things I think is the fear of failure, right? And a lot of people won't identify that necessarily. They don't think that that's what it is, but really taking that step back, taking some renewal time and saying, why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing this? And there can easily be this small amount of fear, just a small, tiny seed of fear that says, well, if I do this, then I won't have enough for this. If I do this marketing, I won't have enough for this. If I do this expansion, I won't have enough for this. And I think that's the wrong way to think about it, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't do this, then you'll never achieve this, right? I think that's the reverse of it. And it's something that I think business owners, certainly they can do those things on their own. But at the same time, I believe that having that outside opinion, and I'm not pushing coaching here by any means, but a mentor for sure. Oh, yeah. Somebody, connect with somebody that's been kind of where you're at, another business owner, somebody that's going through it currently, whether it's with their own business or they're working with somebody else who's on their business. You've got to get that outside perspective, right? Okay. And so being able to be asked the hard questions, that brings hard answers sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes very positive answers, right?
Yeah. And accepting those hard answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's one of those things where I think that nobody wants to call it fear because we're all tough, right? Whatever. But truly it's, if I step out, what risk am I taking? And there are true risks, but then that's when you try to manage those risks by having a good plan. And that's, to me, that's renewal time in a nutshell. That's when you have an opportunity to reflect and do some really good planning so that those fears can just be crushed.
Right. Oh, exactly. It's interesting. I had a conversation with a client this week, and she had texted me about some of her fears. She wanted to put all of her money into gold. And so she asked me to call her. So I called her. And first thing I said to her, I said, am I going to be able to talk you off the ledge? And she paused and I said, look, I said, we've had these conversations many, many times. I said, it's a recurring thing. I said, if I'm just going to be banging my head against the wall, trying to just get you to see a different perspective, then, I don't know if this is even going to be worth it. And we talked and we discussed what it was. And it really comes down to this idea of fear. Mm-hmm. And again, it's fears that's manufactured. It's fear by the media. It's fear by a lot of the stuff that she's reading. And she goes, I read a lot of different things. And I'm like, well, it sounds like you're reading a lot of the same types of things. Maybe you're reading a broad breadth of things, but you're creating this mindset of fear. And we can't live that way. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been through the 2008 market. We've lived through terrorist attacks. We've done all these things. Negative stuff happens. Okay. Crap happens in life, but we've come through it and we continue to come through it. And I think that's where that idea of living by faith is so important for us. Mm-hmm. So like I said, your faith is important to you, as we talked about. So how do you see your faith as helping you in your business?
When I started my company, Matt, I was at a crossroads, right? And it was something where I had some pretty big decisions to make. And I wasn't sure if starting a business was where I needed to go. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was fear, right? Because it was like, fear of the unknown, all these different things were cropping up and I got to take care of my family. And if I do this, then I'm expending pretty much all of our resources that we had at that moment to start it. Right. And that's a scary spot to be in. And so I actually took some time, renewal time, if you want to call it that, but I went out and I fasted and I left my phone at home, which was just a weird thing, right? You drive away and you don't have your phone. Today's day and age.
You'll make it, right?
What happens if I break down? What happened, 20 years ago when you broke down? You fix it, right? Right. Like to a payphone, whatever. But it was something where I just knew I had to get away. And I had to get out of myself and get out of everything, every distraction I could possibly have. And to me, electronics are a large distraction. Anybody that's a business owner, we're on electronics a lot, just with the things that we have to do, but it can definitely be a time suck. So left it at home and drove to, it was a state park over in Iowa it was the middle of winter. So pretty much I was the only one there because nobody camps in wintertime.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I just planned on these little cabins. They had these little cabins. I thought, I'm just going to rent one of those little tiny cabins. Well, they were closed. So I ended up sleeping in my car for 2 days. Wow. But it was humbling, it was like uncomfortable. It was also uncomfortable.
Right.
But it was time when I was able to just put everything else out
Mhm.
And I took a long walk around this huge lake, and I just communed, right? And I just spent time talking to God and saying, "Hey, look, I don't have the answer, and you do. And so anytime you want to tell me,
That's right. Yeah.
anytime, and coming away from that, I knew exactly what I needed to do. And there were so many little epiphanies along that journey
Right.
that it was clear, exactly clear. And then the next big step was coming home and telling my wife.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right. Because I mean, she didn't go with me. She wasn't there. She didn't have those conversations. She didn't have those little epiphanies.
Right.
And it's been the best thing for our family. And it has allowed me to have such freedom. It's allowed me to connect with other believers, because my coaching company is a faith-based company,
Yep.
biblically based.
Mhm.
And I love working with Christian business owners.
Right.
And I mean, it's just a joy. And so to be able to be connected to so many Christian business owners all across the nation,
Right.
it kind of gave me, it lifted me up a lot, because without diving into that realm, I never saw those businesses before. And you see a lot of bad businesses out there that
Oh,
are
yeah.
not treating their employees well, that are not doing things right for our environment or for humanity.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that make the news a lot of times. But you don't see these smaller businesses that are out there making an impact in their community,
Mhm.
doing the right work at the right time for the right reason, and truly being good stewards. And so it's been amazing. And I've met a ton of people and have a lot of close friends because of it.
Right. Oh, yeah. You know what? It's interesting you say that, because, and I run across a lot of business owners too that may not have that strong faith like you have, but there's something kind of inherent in them. They're kind of givers. And it's interesting because, as I sit down, especially when I'm doing like an introductory conversation, I start to identify some of these things that, they do good. I can see that, they contribute to worthy causes. They want to contribute to the community, yet there's still something that's missing. And I think helping to direct them into something greater than themselves has really been a positive impact for them. And,
Yeah.
and I think, again, I think in a way, these things can be inherent to us. We have to be open to allowing them to be released in us.
Yep. Agreed.
Is really
100%.
a key. Is really a key. So, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because again, with being a business coach, a podcast coach, and that this podcast is geared really toward the family business, and especially in the automotive industry, as you can see from the background.
Mm-hmm.
If you could give one piece of advice to those business owners, what do you think what would that be?
I'm going to go back to what we were talking about before, and that's bring somebody on board, not necessarily an employee, bring somebody on board that can help you see the greater vision.
Yeah.
Whether that's a coach, whether that's a mentor, whether that's just a really good friend who's very wise and gives good discerning advice, let them in, because that's where a lot of business owners, I think a lot of the concern is, I don't have the time for that. All right, man,
Right.
it's a lot to bring somebody up to speed with what my business is doing currently. No, it's not. That's a small investment, a very, very small investment of your time, your quote unquote resources, whatever that is, to have somebody come in and be able to see what you're doing well and what you could improve on. And it goes back to what you just said, be open.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be open. So that's my biggest thing, is that so many business owners are just in that grind, and when they finally reach out and hire a coach, it's usually because something's not going well. They're usually not hiring a coach because they are doing well and they want to grow further, or they want to do bigger and better things. It's usually because they're at a crossroads and something's either going poorly, or there may be some opportunities that they're fearful of and they just don't know what to do. But I would say 90% of the time it's because things aren't working well. Don't wait. Don't wait. If you're just humming along, take that opportunity to bring somebody else. Hey, what could we be doing better? So on and so forth, and get those outside opinions, and then choose to do what you're going to do. I mean, I'm not telling you have to take everybody's opinion, but at least you'll have some other ideas other than your own, because we don't have all the answers. None of us have all the answers.
Right.
And so get somebody else that can help bring some of those things to light.
I think that's great advice. And you said something there that really kind of touched me, was that a lot of times they don't start seeking until, the crap hits the fan.
Yeah.
And that's probably my biggest challenge, is trying to get a message out there that let's start to implement some of these things so we don't have to go through that. Let's try to avoid having to go through the fire.
Yep.
And that's a challenge because, most business owners, they're driven, they're type A's. I can do this. And it's tough to humble yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'll even look in my business. And one thing, and people have told me this, that the one thing they appreciate is that I don't sit there and say I'm the expert in everything. So when I'm working with a collision shop, I tell them right off the bat, I'm not an operations guy. If you need to fix something from operations, I have partners that we can bring in to do that, but I'm not the ops guy. Okay. Again, when a family is looking for either a business succession plan or an estate plan, again, I'm not an attorney. I can help to guide the conversation and I can help to coordinate it, but we need to get those outside professionals. And so I try to show my humility in saying, I don't know everything either, but I've got enough sense to know where to go get the answers, and I can help you to get the answers too. And I think when they understand that, that's one of the big values that they see, is that somebody is willing to is willing to kind of take them by the hand and lead them to where they need to go. And then as a business owner, all of a sudden it's kind of like they experience this and they go, this is a much more efficient use of my time.
Yeah.
Because again, I could be spending all this time, searching. It's like, starting with the video and, some new marketing that I'm doing. There's an investment that's in that, which you talked about that earlier. Sometimes you need to invest in yourself, and sometimes you need to spend some additional monies, because where's your time most valuable?
Mm-hmm.
That's really the big thing. I think we forget, and most people forget, it's not in the grind. I mean, I talk to my guys, because most of these guys started out as mechanics or, body shop guys, and then, grew the business or, worked up and bought the business, but they're technicians and they're great technicians, but they forget to be a business owner sometimes. And that's where I think, again, like you said, with the renewal time, stepping away, start to see where am I most productive in this business, and then let me focus my time on that. And the other things, I can either hire more people or I can hire outside professionals to handle that.
Yeah.
So has that been your experience, at least when you're working with businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I don't know automotive industry, the automotive industry at all, pretty much, except for the, the connections I have where I take my truck, right?
Right.
Look, it's doing this thing. You gotta take a look at it.
Yeah.
But, and for any small business, it used to be, you put your ad in the yellow pages, right?
Yeah.
That's where the main advertisement went. So people could look you up, because if they need automotive services, and it's always funny because you'd have the AAA auto, right? Because they want to be that top one in the yellow pages. The AAA would put them up, or, AAA automotive repair. Everybody wants to use those letters. That's how it used to be. And people named their businesses based on how they would rank in the yellow pages a lot of times. Well, nobody uses yellow pages anymore, right?
Do you even have one?
No, the last one I had, I actually took right out back to the fire pit, because we have, we make s'mores with the grandkids and all that stuff. It was great for that, but nothing else, right? But the thing is that how do mechanics advertise nowadays, right? Do they do it on their own? Are they, is it word of mouth? The couple shops that I know that are family owned shops, they've relied on word of mouth for the last decade, mostly. Right. They're not advertising on TV. They can't afford it. They're not advertising hardly anywhere, because they've been built up through word of mouth. And so they're fine. But any of these newer companies out there, that you've got to get somebody that's going to do some marketing for you. And again, it just goes back to what you were saying. Yeah. If you're not hiring somebody, or you're not bringing somebody on, and no matter who is in that role, I mean, there's colleges all around pretty much every city that have marketing departments and so on and so forth. You can get a college kid, almost like an intern, that's going to work a couple hours, a day, or an hour a day for you, and do social media marketing and all these things that you don't know how to do.
Right.
Invest that time, invest a little bit of money, try something new, see what the results are. If that doesn't work, try something different. But if you don't try at all, and you're relying strictly on word of mouth or the yellow pages, man, it's just not going to go well. You've got to know what you do well, focus on that, just like you said, and then bring in experts so that they can do the other things for you. Take it off your plate so you can sleep better at night. You don't have to stress over it.
Exactly. Social media is an interesting animal, because most people, and a lot of the guys that I work with, they're like, well, there's all garbage, and it's, I don't do that stuff. And I don't get on it either. As a matter of fact, the only reason I personally get on is to check any feeds from my business social media. But it's interesting, because what social media does do for the business owner is just create awareness. So where we used to use TV ads, they might have used TV ads or billboards. Now social media has become almost like the TV ad and the billboard, where people are seeing stuff, and it's actually more effective because you're able to develop a relationship. Like I talked to my peers, and they're like, I had a couple of them that started podcasts, and they're like, we're not seeing any results from this. We're done. Okay. Well, no, it's not something that's going to be immediate. It's going to take 2-3 years. All right. But what you're doing is you're creating awareness. Correct. And that's the thing. I think when, even just having you on, having the other guests that we've had on, that, it's really just trying to provide value to people. And I think the more we just try to provide value to people, again, the more that is going to come back to us.
Yeah.
So It's this big circle. It's this big circle. So
absolutely.
So anyway, I know we're getting close to time here, Aric. So I didn't know, is there anything else that you wanted to just touch on that's kind of maybe on your heart that you'd like to tell the audience?
Now, this is going to sound a little bit, this is not set up, audience. Okay. Just know this. Matt, I'm so excited for you. The rebranding that you did, the whole stepping out in faith to really focus on the people that you want to focus on, small business owners, also very much in the automotive industry, but outside of that too. I know that you help other small business owners. I love that. I love your focus. I love your drive. I love what you bring to the table. And I'm excited to see what develops from your podcast.
Well, that's great. That's great. And I appreciate that, Aric. And I know every once in a while I'll have you behind the scenes helping me to tweak some of the technology that's here. So
I'm here for you, man.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, and the last thank you is to you, the listener. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and listening to Your Business, Your Life with me, Matt DiFrancesco. And if you have not subscribed to this podcast, please click the subscribe now button below. That way, when a new edition comes out or new episode, you can, it'll download directly to your devices. And also, if you can give us a rating, a 5-star rating, we would definitely appreciate that, and a review, because again, that's the way that we help to drive more traffic to the website. And like I said, I'm hoping that we provide value to you. So anyway, with that, I want to say so long from High Lift Financial and from me, Matt DiFrancesco, and let's make every day your best day, and God bless. Hey, I really want to thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. If you want to be notified when new episodes become available, click the subscribe button below.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of High Lift Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment, legal, or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding your business or personal planning. DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC, DBA High Lift Financial, is a registered investment advisor. Registration with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or any state security authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training.